Hello and welcome to Howard's Cave of Wonder. I'm Chris, aka Howard Blues, welcoming you back to my cave. And it's been a while. I do apologize for that. I was gone much longer than I thought I would be. For those who maybe you're new to the channel, I took a bit of a hiatus. My wife and I welcomed our third child into the world, and we've been adjusting to life of a family of five. So it's been kind of busy, kind of crazy. Work has been busy and crazy, and I've had illness and injury, and amongst not only myself but the family. And so what was supposed to really be like a month off now is like 4 or 5 months off. So I do apologize, but welcome back. And if you did wait around and you're back, thank you for sticking it out. For those who are new, just a very quick kind of rundown of what I do on this channel. This is my hobby vlog, is how I put it. It's where I talk about the projects that I'm doing down here in the cave. So this isn't a thing where you're going to see me start a project and necessarily finish a project in a single video. It might take me a couple, because a hobby at the speed of hobby, and it's more about enjoying the process and the fun of it and that. So I've been on a long hiatus. I'll touch on maybe the little bit of hobbying that I did, but first let's introduce the project that I'm going to be working on this evening as I sit down to do this. I have an interesting project that I am looking forward to doing, and part of it is because I had some time where my wife took the kids and went out to the family lake cabin for a family reunion, and I had some time to myself, and I meant to make some hobby videos out of that, and it just didn't really amount, although you'll probably see some of that footage later in this as I know that. But while they were gone, when I would sit down for a meal, I used it as a time to basically watch some of the old movies that I used to watch as a kid. And I don't necessarily mean kid movies. I mean movies that I could still enjoy today as an adult, but I haven't seen them in some cases decades. So okay, sorry about that. I had little technical difficulties. The Osmo camera, which I used to film the close-ups of the projects, all of a sudden just turned off and had some problems. I think I got it back up and running. But anyway, where was I? Movies. I was talking about movies. So I said I was watching old movies that I haven't watched for decades, and these are things I used to watch as a kid all the time, although they were versions that had been recorded off of like the TV and such. So it's been interesting watching some of these, because I realize now how much like swearing is in some of them that I didn't know as a kid. So classics like Smokey and the Bandit 2. And of course, I couldn't resist, because it is the 50th anniversary of one of my all-time favorite films, Jaws. And so, needless to say, I wanted to paint a shark model that would, just be fun to kind of celebrate. And so I dug, and luckily I had this one. It's from WizKids. It's one of their models. So I'm looking forward to that. Although I'm going to have some challenges, because it comes apart, and this piece is nicely translucent, and I have some special paint that I'm going to try and use on that to get an effect that the shark sits in there. So I need to paint the shark and that separately. So I have a nice base for me to put my water on. But here's the problem, and I found this out when I went to prime this one, and I don't know why I didn't think about this, but when I went to prime it, I had it stuck actually on this base, and just because there's so little area here to stick it to, and such, that wasn't working. So I'm gonna have to actually pin it. I'm gonna put a pin in it, and then I actually have one of the first like fancy painting bases I bought was from Rathcore, and it's these little bases. It comes with a stand, but I didn't get the stand when I backed the Kickstarter, but the idea was that you had a place to put your finger and such, but it has a nice cork piece here, so I can pin my model, stick it into the cork, stick it into there, and it works. That's the first thing I got to do. But to go one step further, because I just could, and because as I was looking for the Jaws model, I remembered I had this. This was from one of Privateer Press's Kickstarters for their role-playing game, and it was for, I believe, the Nightmare Empire. But it's for this. This is the Brine Thrall, and it is part shark, part octopus, part steampunked mess. It is awesome. And because these are two sharks of kind of the great white variety, this is going to work out well because I can paint kind of both. So that's my project that I'm working on tonight. Little Jaws action, a little shark action, and we will, of course, talk about some other things going on with hobbying and the light as we do that. So, first things first, I need to get this Bruce onto a stand, and we'll talk about other hobby things that I have been up to as we work here. So for this, I have luckily some fairly thick rod that I can use for it. I'm gonna grab my trusty pin vise. It's interesting. I have this pin vise that I use for such projects, but the interesting thing is I really don't pin a lot of the miniatures I do, and I probably should pin more. I just I won't lie, pinning is just not something I'm really all that great at, and so I have a hard time with that. And truthfully, I guess I don't really play so much with all my models, so the need to pin, because they're not getting played with, not all that big. This is probably a little bit bigger of a bit than what I need, but should work. You'll notice that these models have already primed them. With each model, they both needed a little bit of green stuff work for them. The one that we'll call Bruce, which is the one I'm pinning right now, mostly had two just really kind of annoying seams. One kind of back by the dorsal fin, and that one I didn't feel like I needed to cover like too thoroughly. And I'm not gonna lie, my green stuff was probably a little thick there. But part of that was because a lot of that ends up covered by the water. And so very little of it actually sticks out. So I could be a little bit sloppier and not feel too terrible. The other one, however, was right at the jaws. It went through kind of the back of the mouth, and basically it was where like the lower jaw attached to the rest of the model. And that was okay. It worked, but it was kind of just an annoyance to me. Yeah, it's gonna be a little wobbly, but we should be okay. So, as I said, I'm really not pinning this to be like a super structural. I just needed to hold on to the holder, and of course, it means I need glue, which is way over there. Fail, Howard, fail. Just going to use a little bit of Gorilla Glue here and just put that in. And we'll let it sit while we'll talk about some other things. And hopefully we'll get to painting. But I do kind of want it to set because I don't really want to glue it to my holder. So we'll stick our rod in, and again, I don't need it to be super straight. Carefully creating a sit, Bruce, sit. I can't quite show you the ridiculous of what's down there. We'll take a photo. You can see this interesting things we sometimes do in this hobby. I actually, this goes to show that the interesting of trying to like hobby and talk and be entertaining at the same time can be difficult, because right off over there I have baking soda that I could easily sprinkle on here, instantly creating a bond. It would work really well. That means getting up again. Oh, I'm out of practice with this. So I have that kind of sitting there. Normally I would like it over something that's not my painting towel, but it'll be okay. I'm just going to sprinkle baking soda on there. Baking soda reacts with the super glue. It should cause a chemical reaction that should harden it up really easily. Move that. I'm still going to let that sit for a bit. Well, let's talk about some other things that I have been hobbying on. Not much. Really not much. Getting down here to the hobby space with 3 kids has not been real easy, and I'm going to be honest, a lot of times I get down here and I'm so tired. But getting kind of the motivation to start a project can be difficult, can be a real challenge. But I have done a few things. One, I can't show. I'm working on a special top secret project gift for someone, and while I don't think they'll see this video, there's the chance they could see this video, so I don't want to give it away. So sorry, you're not going to get to see that. But I have been doing a few other things. One of the things that I did over the weekend while my family was gone, in the cave, if you've ever seen some of the older videos, you know I have a pegboard wall that I have blisters of minis hanging from. What I didn't realize is that pegboard wall was not super secure to the board behind it. It was never meant to hold as much weight as I have on it, so it was starting to literally peel off of the wall. So I just need to reinforce it, screw some screws in. But that did mean I had to take a good chunk of the wall off, screw those in, put them back in, and that was kind of the start of what I thought was going to be a long hobby weekend that just did not turn into anything. All that beneficial. But hey, my wall is now secure, and painting-wise, not a whole lot. I've been working on some terrain for the game Riot Quest. This is actually it's actually terrain that came from a different game by Privateer Press called Grind, and Grind was kind of their kind of in their steampunk world, their like sports ball game involving Max pushing a giant ball, a grind ball, into the goal. And so I have they did in one of the last Riot Quest Kickstarters where you could actually get the ball. So I've been working on painting this up because of just how this was made. There was some like damage to it when it came. I just didn't care is kind of my conclusion to it. This is just supposed to be a giant hunk of metal, a piece of terrain, so I didn't really care about the imperfections of it. I have so far kind of just started on my rust pattern that I tend to use, and one day I'll make a video on rust and how I do rust. But I'm at a point now where I just need to do a shaded metallic on it, and it's done. So the ball pretty close. And then it also came with a pillar. We have this lovely pillar that I've also kind of done some of my rust work on. Again, I have a process called shaded it's kind of a shaded metallics wash process where you use kind of a darker blue and a brown and a little bit of the original metallic and actually a varnish, and you paint it on, and it helps weather but also keeps the shine. But yeah, so did those are kind of easy things to, like, in the evening I can sponge paint on my rust colors, and it's not a big deal if I don't get that far. So I've been doing that as one thing. Been opening a lot of the Kickstarter boxes that I've had accumulating and needed to do, taking care of those. And then over on, I do a weekly podcast with my good friend, Mark Kidder. He's a radio DJ. We get together with a group of friends. We review beer and just pop culture, the stuff that's kind of entertaining us. And on that show, Beer, Blues, and BS, I've been doing this painting challenge kind of just during the course of the show where I allowed my co-host to select colors. And I am now trying to paint a model using only the colors that they gave me. And if I need a color that they didn't give me, I have to buy a color with a penalty shot. It's been kind of fun. I am painting this Koga Mossback. I've been painting this Koga Mossback kind of turtle druid. This was a Reaper miniature, and it was done kind of to help fundraise after the fires on Maui. It was sculpted by Jason Wiebe, and I really am having a lot of fun doing this. I have had to buy some colors because I didn't get a gray. I didn't get a white. Also, I knew I wanted to paint these mushrooms on his back red. I didn't get a red. So I've had a few. I've been trying my best to mix colors, which is a challenge for me. So it's been a real fun challenge. My co-hosts have been having a lot of fun watching me struggle to do it. And if you want to see the struggles, and they, trust me, they are real, the challenge starts in episode 224 of Beer, Blues, and BS, and you can watch my struggle over there as I do it in front of a crowd. I try and have the paint cam. I will admit the paint cam was not good. It took me a while to get that. So those are kind of the main hobbying. I did have a couple acquisitions come in, and again, I'm just giving that as much time as I can to dry. But let me show off a few things that came in. One thing that came in, I have not had time to fully open this thing yet. It's the master set of P3 paints that Steamforged Games is re-releasing. There you go. So a lot of the classic colors and such. I have never gotten to really use P3 paints because originally they came in pots, and I just have not been a big fan of painting with pots. I paint with dropper bottles. So the fact that I can get these in dropper bottles really made it worth it. So I have 100 paints of that, and I'm hoping to, a little bit later in this year, paint. I have quite a few of the old Privateer Press War Machine models and Hordes models, like this Swamp Troll. I want to paint one of these guys using the P3 paints and just see what I can get out of it. So that came in. I don't have it's somewhere in the cave. I'm not going to get up for a third time during the course of this. Reaper Miniatures did a relief miniature for victims of the flash flooding in Kerr County, Texas. It's a beautiful little vignette sculpted by it's a duo. In this case, it was Jason Wiebe and Christina Von Patten. and they knocked it out of the park. They donated the sculpt to Reaper, and you can go on to Reaper Miniatures and purchase that, and they are donating the profits to that to help with kind of that recovery and that relief. They're only having that miniature up for 90 days, so it's going to end sometime in October. So if you're interested in that, go get it. There's a link for it down in my show notes. I just think it's a good cause. I already ordered mine. It's here. I'd show it off. You just have to live with the pictures off of the website, because I'm not going to try and figure out where it ended up on the pegboard wall, because, as I said, things got rearranged. The box I opened while I was doing that, it is the Mini Crate Mini from Team Fortress Games. I don't know what it is, so I figured I'd just open it up. We'll find out together. They do put these out in the newsletter, and I am really bad about reading the Steam Forge newsletter, because they sometimes put out, and I don't know if this bothers you, bothers me. I get a lot of gaming kind of newsletters, and some of them are just ads, and I kind of wish they would do fewer of the ad ones and still had stuff that was content. What do we got here? I also missed the cards. Oh, okay. So this is the old or Cephalex model, which is one of the old factions that they don't do really anymore. Why don't I bring him down here? This is the better camera. So there we go. That's kind of cool. He's got kind of a very Bane-esque look to him, which I think is groovy, with all the tubes and hookups. Although it's kind of interesting because some of the tubes do just kind of end, but I hadn't seen the model beforehand. But yeah, he's got that crazy mask on. All right, that looks like a fun miniature to paint. That might have to go on the list. He's got this great. I don't know if you guys got to see it. Little tank on the back too. That's all tied to him with rope. Oh, this is pretty cool. So that's a fun one. That'll be a fun model to paint when I get to him, which hopefully soon. I do want to try and do more painting. So there's that, and then the last thing on acquisitions, and then we'll get back to the project. I told you I kind of go at the speed of my own pace here for some of this. Definitely from one of the companies that I have been getting a real kick out of lately. And part of the reason I get a kick out of it, I love their name, because their Minotaur is their company name. They're the ones who gave me my really great, unfortunately, it's over there, Drink Your Paint Water koozie. But this is a little thing from a Kickstarter back. We got a Minotaur. It's one of those pop fidgets that you can use as a painting tray. One day I'm going to have to actually try that. I have a couple of these, but so there's that. It is a box of their brush soap. I have not had a chance to use their particular brush soap, but I'm almost out of my current one, so that'll be good. I do like the fact on the back here, it has down here at the bottom, don't eat the dish soap. But this is their Synthwave, because I did back, they had it as a Kickstarter. Oh, well, I also share sculpting tool in here. That's really a pretty nice one. But I wanted to give them a try. I backed their Kickstarter for these Synthwave brushes. And I don't remember all the full details on the Kickstarter, but basically, instead of being a Klosky Saber haired brush, much like this one that I have from Squidmar, it's a synthetic version of that should hopefully hold up. I got 2 sets. I'm very excited to try these because some of my brushes are getting old and I'm really interested to see how the synthetic brushes work. I've used synthetic brushes before. They're not bad. They're not terrible, but they do tend to curl and have problems Yeah, and I'm not the biggest fan of just kind of the lifespan out of them. I do prefer a nicer brush, so I'm hoping these will keep up just as a that. But anyway, let's get back to Brucey Bruce. Let's dust that off. And don't worry, I have more crowdsourcing thoughts to share in a bit. Now, normally, when I have the rod like this, I like to use a nice... I know it's showing up on both cameras because that's just how long I'm around. I tend to have a nice little clippers that I use for that. I could not find them when I came down. I told you, I'm a wee bit out of practice. But I did have a pliers down here for opening a glue bottle that had stuck. So it's got a snippy bit. It'll work for this. It's just very overkill for this. And I'm going to cut a little bit more, knowing that I'll probably have to go back and cut more of this off in order to really get there we go, it to fit back into the water. But right now my biggest concern is having it stay in that where I won't lose it. I've already lost one rod tonight. I found it again, and now I've lost the second rod. I am, for those who don't know, I rock a particular moniker. I am the living embodiment of Charlie Brown. Worst thing that could happen will happen, and it will happen to me. So anyway, we can push Bruce in there. So this is the kind of cool thing about this is, yes, you could stab it into the cork, but it's actually split, so you can pull it apart, put the rod in, push it in like that, so it's in, and then because of how the wooden base is, it applies its own set of pressure to it to kind of squeeze that rod in. And there we go. We have Jumping Bruce. I mean, you're not going to have fun models like this and not play with them, right? Yeah. Anyway. Okay. Whew. Bruce is ready to paint. Now the question is, what color to paint Bruce? And it's interesting. The shark in Jaws really kind of has two colorations. And I say that because depending on the movie that you see him in, there's some effect to that. The first Jaws, he's got a bit of he's more of like a greenish gray. He's not a straight gray. Note picture. But they really like turn that up. That's part of why like the shark looks actually kind of worse. That's the interesting thing about Jaws, right? All you ever hear is that legendary story about Jaws is so great because the mechanical shark didn't work all that well, and Spielberg had to change his movie. I don't know how much he really changed it. I think that he was good enough to make some changes as he went. I just, but he made the shark look believable because we didn't see it all that much. Whereas, like, in later movies, it gets worse. And, like, I just finished watching Jaws 3, and I think that there's times where, like, the shark is just, like, all the same color. I don't know, because, the great white, gray on top, white on bottom. But, anyway, I ramble on. I'm debating on what color to kind of start with. Because I don't want to lean too heavy into the green, because great whites really don't have that much green. But I think for my start color, yeah, I saw one other that I wanted to try. I'm going to be starting with some Shadowed Stone Reaper Measures. And I just realized just how bright that highlight is. You go over there. Okay. That's a little better. So, some Shadowed Stone from Reaper Miniatures. And I'm going to add in this fun fact. Reaper Miniatures announced their next Kickstarter, and it's not for miniatures. They're not doing Bone 7 right off the bat. The next thing that they are going to be doing, they are redoing their paint line. So their MSP paint line has kind of grown substantially over the years. They've introduced new colors throughout the different Kickstarters and all of that, and the paint range is kind of crazy. And there are some of the paints that, honestly, I look at them and I can't tell them apart. Like, they're just so slight of difference. You just can't. And so they are, anyway, what I was saying was some of their colors are so close between all of the different lines and such that they've done that it's going to be a real kind of challenge because there's just so much. So I am starting off with some Shadowed Stone. And I'm starting on the dorsal. And I don't mind that this is a little on the real watery side, on the thinner side, and not super opaque, because I'm painting a natural thing. And when you paint something natural, we want it to have kind of organic shape and form. So even when it comes to like the dividing line between kind of that gray that we expect with a shark and the white, we want to make sure that even that is a bit more on the organic and not just a straight line. I am not looking for a perfected line with this. I am looking to really kind of just create a beautiful organic look to it. So I'm not worried about perfection here. So that's kind of why I'm using a little bit of a bigger brush, and I'm just kind of streaking it on there, and I'm okay with a little bit of color variation on it as well. I'm a little off camera, but yeah. So, and I'm just kind of penciling this in right now. One of the things I will have to probably pull up here in a second is a little reference art. Not reference art, a reference photo. Just to make sure I have my great white kind of lines kind of down in kind of the right spot. Because there's a part of me that sits here and looks at this little version of Bruce and goes, the eyes are in the white part. But I kind of also think that most of his nose is gray. Just to show, and I will make sure I put an actual thing up there so you can see it. What I can see from that is it does come down to the eyes, but it's very tip of the snout, and then tail and fins. Okay, I can work off of that. So Jaws was one of those movies that I absolutely loved as a kid, and I can't tell you how many times I watched it. It was one of the reasons that I fell in love with sharks, and I think part of why I liked it so much was that it was, for the most part, it's a monster movie, if you think about it, and which is great. And I was always big into monsters, so it really fits in that role very well. Get a little off the camera there. So just trying here, as I said, kind of come in, hit the nose. I will say I've painted now a couple of these WizKid models, and I'm not gonna lie, This one is okay, but some of the others that I have done in the past, their details are just so soft. For instance, I've been painting this guy. I forgot to mention him in the. What have I been doing? It's just an Aten, but as you can kind of see, like his facial features are really hard to see. Rest of him, it's fine. Looks absolutely fine. But when you get into the face, it gets a little murky. And I have found that with other WizKid models that I have painted as well. I think that's part of why I have some that are just have not been finished. It's purely because I struggle with the models themselves. Okay, painting the fin. Come in a little bit more on this side. Anyway, Jaws, I can't remember how old I was the first time I saw a Jaws movie. I will say I watched the Jaws movies in a weird order. The first Jaws movie I saw was actually Jaws 4. I saw that one first. And Jaws 4, not a great Jaws movie. I'm just going to throw that out there. Probably one of my least favorite Jaws films. Actually, I think it is my least favorite. I didn't like it mostly because it has that whole kind of silly notion in it that the shark is actually after the Brody family. It is a revenge story. It's just the most kind of insane plot out of the Jaws movies. You know, this shark is after them, and it just doesn't work in that sense. And so I always liked the initial first attack that happens on Sean Brody. Just, it's a good surprise. It was kind of a good jump scare. But after that, it's kind of, it goes downhill pretty quickly. So Jaws 4, I didn't really like. And then I saw Jaws 3. And then I saw Jaws 1. And then the last one I ever saw was Jaws 2. So I saw them in a weird order. And I will just say, like, Jaws 1, great movie. It's the best out of all of them. But then I have that controversial take. I like Jaws 3 a bit more than Jaws 2. Jaws 3 and Jaws 3 is by no means perfect, because that's the one that they did in 3D, and that 3D does not hold up well. There's some really bad parts to that, but I liked the story of it. To me, it was kind of an interesting one. The idea that, hey, there's a shark in the park and we have to deal with it and we have to get through it. But it is rough. And as I said, I've been rewatching these, and that one does not really hold up all that well. So, okay, we got kind of an initial base coat on our shark. I'm just going to look. Yeah, it looks like the underside of fins tend to be white. So let's find us a white. The Jaws shark, it's not a pure white. It's a little bit more yellowish. And so I want to kind of keep that. And I think part of that is just the murkiness of the water. that they filmed that in. What's the Cape of? Yeah, I don't think it's that one. I think I want to go. I'm going to go with a little, I think, skeleton bone, which has just a little bit of a yellowish color. So, have you watched the Jaws movies? What was your favorite? Anyway, one of the things I would say, so Jaws 3 suffers a little bit from the 3D, but I liked the originality. Jaws 2, why it's partially my third, is it's in like one part a rehash of the original Jaws, because it's there's a shark. Nobody believes Brody. Brody has to once again battle the shark. It rehashes some of those kind of themes pretty heavily. The other real issue that I have with it is that like the whole like B plot of it is follows kind of this group of teenagers who, there's so many of them, you can never quite tell, like you never really kind of learn who they are, and I'd have a problem telling you most of their names. They didn't stand out whatsoever, and because of that, it's just so hard to care about them in it. Also, I hated the whole electrocution death, and there's just some other things that I would tell you I dislike from a plot point thing, because again, it's the shark more as a stalker. Why is he stalking these kids? And just hunting them. The other thing is, and I get, not as much was known about probably great whites and such at that time, but how hungry do we think that these sharks really are? That they're eating like a whole person and then they're coming back for more. The first Jaws, kind of got away with that of, usually there was like an attack and then nothing happened for a while. The shark had time to digest its meal. And, so we didn't see other things like, my favorite scene in the original Jaws is the attack that happens on the pond in the estuary. I love it. There's an overhead shot after the Scoutmaster's rowboat gets tipped over, and it's overhead, and you just see, the mechanical shark come up and just grab him and pull him down. I almost actually kind of hate that the follow-up shot shows like the shark head coming out and pulling him under, because I'm just like, the first part of that was just so good. I just kind of feel that you didn't need that second bit. Okay, I'm trying to be a little careful here. This gets back into that that softness I talked about this, because I want to paint some pink for his jawline, but like his jawline gets a little murky right over on this side, so I'm gonna have to think about that and probably sketch that in a little bit as I go. With this, you might notice again, it's a sloppy. Well, for one thing, it's white over black, and in some cases the gray, because I'm kind of going over it. So it's going to need a couple of coats, and that's fine. Again, trying to do that kind of natural look to it. So I want some texture-y kind of goodness to this. So we'll have to let that kind of dry. Looks terrible right now. Don't worry. More coats. We'll get in there. Well, I let that dry before I do a next coat. And I'm just going to stick to Bruce. I know I teased the Brian Thrall. We'll come back for Mr. Brian Thrall. I don't know that I can give you guys anything right on that right away. Let's talk a little bit about crowdsourcing. Because I mentioned the Reaper Kickstarter that's upcoming. No announced date of when. But there were a couple of Kickstarter things that I looked at during my hiatus. I'm not going to go into all of them. But one of the big ones that I'm going to mention it because it was a disappointment to me. Restoration Games released crowdfunded crowdfunded. I think it was on GameFound. A kaiju battle game, and it was Godzilla versus King Kong. And I was so excited when I saw the previews for that one because Godzilla and King Kong are two of my jams. If you've never seen a view of my paint desk, I have a giant King Kong poster that's right off on this side. Love me some King Kong. And so I would have loved to have gotten to know this. The thing about it is I'm very much a completionist sort of collector. And the problem is that I went and I looked at it and I get what they were trying to do. They were trying to do no stretch goals, no improvements or quality improvement with what they were doing. They were hoping that with what they did was just going to be such a high caliber thing that was worth the money. The problem was that for a basic pledge, it was $125 if my memory serves. This was a couple of months ago. And that got you 2 monsters, kind of 2 factions. And that wasn't a lot. The other problem that I had was, like, Godzilla was in one, King Kong was in the other pledge. And I understand why they did it. But it bugged me something fierce that you did that. Because, again, if I wanted both Godzilla and King Kong, now it was $250 for that. And it just got pricey. And I get it. And now that I have 3 kids, I'm trying to be a little bit fiscally responsible. So that one killed me a little bit because I was so down until I was out. And again, nothing against the company. I have some games from Restoration Games. They're great. I thought the miniature looked good. I liked a lot of things. It was just the price tag was just more than I was able to spend at that time. And that happens from time to time. So I had to pass on that one. The newest one that I have looked at and been kind of on, and I don't know that it's worth a video because it's not fully released. And maybe when it's fully released, I'll do a video dive into it. But CMON is putting out, or not CMON. This shows you how just out of it I've been. I haven't even been following game news. CMON apparently is hitting a little bit of financial trouble, and so they sold off some of their properties very quietly, at least quietly enough that I didn't hear about it. And one of them was what was called Eric Lang's God trilogy. So Blood Rage, Rising Sun, and Inset. Howard will show it. Future me will show it up. But they sold this off, and it went to Racoon Tycoon, board game company, and they've repartnered with Eric Lang, and they are doing a campaign on GameFound for Blood Rage Valhalla. Now check this out. I love me some Blood Rage. Great game. And I have to say, it's a little interesting because it's not straight up Blood Rage. It's a arena combat game. They did say that you'd be able to get the original Blood Rage and a lot of the expansions and such that were in the original campaign. So if you ever missed the original campaign and you wanted some of that stuff, apparently there's going to be an option for that. But the thing that the things that bothered me about it, and as I said, I'll dive a little bit more into it. I looked at the 3 updates they put. One of it is the art is very much Adrian Smith's art, so it fits kind of within the world. So it's not a terrible thing by any way, shape, or form. But it's different. It's not all Norse mythology, and they said that it's it is very much an arena skirmish game, but it's heroes from all times. They're going with kind of that route. And so you have heroes from different cultures. And I don't know how I feel about that. It just feels very different. And just kind of like a tread on the name, Blood Rage. So I'm going to give it a fair shake. I'm going to look at it. But I didn't like that. The other thing I didn't like is they have a thing right now where you can pledge $1 to get an exclusive mini that once the campaign starts, it's going to cost you like, I think they said like $15. I don't like that because it's basically saying pledge now or you're going to have to spend more. Well, I don't know if I want to give them $1. And what if I don't like the rest of the product? Then I'm stuck with this miniature that I don't really like. It's kind of a weird one. You know, it just... And then you kind of end up with some free money. Again, I don't know that I really want to give Racoon Tycoon free money. So, we'll see. I will probably make a video about it once it actually goes live. So, stay tuned to that. And I'll share some more thoughts, but it's at least something I've been looking at. Getting back to Bruce here, I am just penciling in kind of his jaws. I actually went with a lighter color and got it on my palette, and I was like, well, I don't know. Don't know if that's the color. That looks like a highlight color if I ever kind of saw one. So I'm going to work up to that. So just starting with some pink, not planning to leave it this pink, but at least kind of think of this as my shade. I'm only going to work up from here and try to bring the jaws in to a little bit more of a whitish color. But I want to start with this pink base coat, because it is an obnoxious pink, if you ask me. Okay, gotta get some more Whitey McWhite onto this. I'm just grabbing a bigger brush because there's a lot of shark here to paint. I gotta keep my, there we go, hands in there. So that's kind of it on the whole like crowdfunding thing. I've kind of backed a lot away from crowdfunding. It just feels like so much of it. There's not a lot of great stuff. I mean, CMON seems to be in just a bit of trouble. If they're selling off properties, I'm a little worried about some of the outstanding pledges and such that I have kind of with them. Just because, you know, it feels very reminiscent of Mythic Games and kind of the failure and the downside when you start selling off stuff and you have a bunch of stuff that hasn't been finished and all of that. I worry. So I don't know that I would bet too heavily on a CMON game. And they've stopped. I will at least give them credit for that, for as much as people maybe like or dislike CMON and some of their business tactics. I mean, I definitely think that there's some things that they do that most people would kind of take as a little shady. At least I'll say is that since they've seemingly hit trouble, they haven't really ran anything. There hasn't been a pre-sale for a while. There hasn't been a new crowdfunding campaign. They just seem to be out of it. And I think that's okay. They can take some time off of that. Hopefully, though, they'll get out of it. And I say that, at least get out of it enough to get me the things that they still owe me. But it's getting a little harsh in the old comment pages because, again, they are making the big mistake of not communicating with backers, and no good will ever come of doing it that way. Backers don't like it when they don't hear things. So hopefully they'll improve that. Okay. Well, I do think Bruce here is coming along just fine. He's got a weird kind of mustachy thing going on here. Let's take care of that. And yep, got a little white on the pink. That's okay. What's it? I knew it was going to need a second coat anyway, so we'll have a little bit lighter spot right there. So coming along. It's a little too pink right now, but we'll get there. So, yeah, but let me know in the comments if there's anything that you have backed lately or are planning to back. Like I said, I've kind of been off of a lot of that sort of stuff for kind of the time being. And I'm okay with that. Privateer Press, I guess I could also mention, did a round 2 on the P3 paints. Well, I was super excited about that because I hear great things about them. Again, just the sheer cost to get everything was a lot, and I just didn't know what I needed enough to really back for the whole thing. I did back. They had some interesting metallics that I wanted to play with, and I at least back to get a set of those. So that I did. Back. But we've been going roughly for an hour, and you know what? That makes a pretty good long video, long enough for me to edit, especially when I add in everything. So we got Bruce base coated for the most part. Some things to do here and there with him, but as I said, it took a little bit longer to kind of do the whole getting him on a paint stand. So hey, next time we'll work on finishing him. I don't think that Bruce is going to be a super long paint job. I think once we kind of get that in and do some detailing, I have some things I want to do kind of for his skin to add a little bit of sharky texture to it. So, and I need to research, because I kind of believe that his mouth was white, but I'll double check. I'll look at the scene with Quint again. But we'll do some of that next time and continue on with that. And so with that, if you made it this far, thank you very much for the watch. I greatly appreciate it. Hopefully you will find that I will continue these and try and get these out. There should be a new video every other week. I like to keep that schedule. It's just I can only record every other week, so it kind of keeps it that way and such. And there'll be some great stuff I think coming out. I got these the Bruce figure here to finish. The Brian Thrall I want to definitely do. As I said, I got a video idea for using these P3 paints on some old Troll Bloods. I have a slew of projects on my painting desk that are really close to being finished. So I would love to kind of just knock out a bunch of those. Some of them are things that you guys have seen me paint before. So I need to finish some of those sorts of things and get them off the paint desk, which I think is very doable. And yeah, also I have I started a video. This is a great epic fail on painting some Warhammer Underworlds figures, and that didn't go well. So we'll get to those. Truthfully, it was a bad assembly video. Like, it wasn't a bad video. It's just I thought that I had seen on the website that there was more lore associated with these characters. So I'm like, watch this time lapse while I read the lore. And then when I went to actually look at the lore, that I thought I had seen, it was like all of a sentence for each one, and I'm just like, that was great. But I will probably do something to kind of salvage that video at some point. So I got a lot of great things coming up and things to talk about. So make sure you tune in. If you're kind enough to give a like and a subscribe, greatly appreciated. Not required, but if you want to follow along on this journey, always glad to have more people along. I do have a Howard's Game of Wonder Facebook group page that you can join. There's a link to that down in the show notes. And with that, I'm just glad that you all came back. Hopefully you all came back. But I'm back. I hope to continue doing this, and we'll have some more fun together. So, hopefully we will catch you all back down here in the cave next time. Night, everybody.